always so hard for us to watch murals be painted out, and we want to preserve them in some way, but Carlos always talks about how it's the memory that's so important. It's the memory of the work and the memory of the experience. So we're thrilled that you're here to join us in this memory-making time. My name is Cecily, and I'm the director of the Center for Visual Art. And this has been one of the most amazing and important exhibitions of my career. So it's a really special, monumental time for me as well. So I'm going to let Carlos tell you about the process that we're going to do, and he'll introduce the poets as well.
All right, well, thank you, Cecily, and thank you all for being here. Really appreciate you taking the time to come in. I've been in this community, as you saw the title of the exhibit, with over 40 years. I started at Metro State as a student in 1974, right as the Chicano movement happening here in Denver. Was lucky enough to hear Rodolfo Corky Gonzalez and many other speakers and poets of the times, the late, great Lalo Delgado. And so, I also went to school in Boulder, graduated with MFA. I have a couple we went to school together, Nadi. We waited, Carolyn Carey, waving your hand. I was hoping she'd say a little something, but she may. And then I also have a former student as well, and a Fantasma member. I was in bands when I was young, and even up to 2 years ago, I was sitting in a band for 10 years. I played drums, congas, timbales. I started playing in the late 60s with my family, the Lopez family. We had a family band. My grandfather would play guitar, corridos, rancheras, and such, and he taught all his sons and his daughters as well. My mom never kept it up. She's the oldest. And my Aunt Teresa, she still picks the guitar a little bit, but my uncles all learned, and we had a little family band playing mostly Mexican and Latin rock music at the time, funk and disco, you know, we did all of that. And so music is very important to me, and being in a band is very important. So as I progressed through my career, I always wanted to collaborate. And collaboration means about community, and community is about who we are, right? And so when in a band, I thought like Izzy Lozano is this talented artist, along with Tony, Diego, and Josiah Lopez, decided to form a band. Oh, how did I do that? Maybe a band, kind of like an art band or a visual group or art collective. So I always like working in a team, and with people like Izzy and creative people, it's just so much fun to team up and create work together. And a lot of people say, oh, there's only open receptions, there's never closing receptions. Back in the early 90s, I had won this award through the Denver Center for Performing Arts on creativity, and I was given, I won an award for this installation I had created, very similar to this. It's a replication of probably the early 90s. It was called, as I titled this as well, El Espejo, Check in the Rear View of Chicano Time. I remember when I was a kid, one of my friends, Antonio Atencio, had this really cool 64 lowrider, and he would never let me drive it. And one time he got a little too stoned, and I wasn't as stoned. He said, drive my rampita, you know, drive my car. So I drove, and I had never drove this ride, you know, so I'm cruising through the hood up into Westwood neighborhood. And I'm looking in the mirror, and I see people pass by, some gorgeous girls, you know, honking at them and such. And it's the culture, you know, I just saw the rear view. It made me think of that rear view of cruising through life, and you see your life go past. And so I came up with this concept with this piece. Muralism was happening so much in the late 60s. We have Carlota Espinosa, who's an amazing muralist, probably the first Chicano muralist in this country, living here in Denver. We have Manuel Martinez, and so many other muralists, Leo Tanguma in this city that have put murals all over back in the 70s. And so I always wanted to do that as well. But I tend to always be a little more conceptual with the work. So I came up with this idea of painting directly onto the wall. And then over the duration of the exhibit, people show up, and then it would be painted out. It would be a temporary piece, temporal, not intended to last, so that I myself have control over my work. You see in our community today, we've had a mural by Jerry Jaramillo in North Denver painted on the wall, and people came in, purchased the building, and have no respect for the history or the culture of that mural. And the mural was there, I don't know, you guys maybe?
There were two of them.
Two of them?
Yeah.
And it was like up 40 years, I don't know.
And one was gone. And are
Right.
they both gone now?
I think so, but it was just painted out with no respect or ask for the artist. It just erased our history.
Yeah.
And so we lose that control. And so I came up with the concept in the early 90s, like, I'm going to paint this directly on the wall, and it's about memory. So each of you will witness a piece of art disappearing, just like you are witnessing our neighborhood change, gentrification, and it's about that. That's what this is about. So without further ado, if you notice this being raised here, we're going to start this side here. And by the way, we had I had some assistance with this mural, if I could see it. I guess I'll just see it here. I had Dakota, wave to Dakota. Dakota assisted me with this. Laura, I don't know if she's here. Wyatt, you still here?
Over here.
All right, Wyatt. And Jasmine assisted as well. So I had students help me with this. So it wasn't a solo effort. Again, it's about community. And so I'd like to just erase just parts of this and then stop and then bring up someone to speak about community, erasure. We also have an amazing poet here. We have Dr. Rivera here from CU Boulder, say this Izzy Lozano, our great poet Ramon del Castillo. And I just wanted to mention too, when I did this installation back in the early 90s, it was a tape. I asked a friend to come in and tape, so he filmed it. He filmed the erasure. He filmed the closing night. And then when he went to go play back that tape, there was nothing there. So all I have is my memory, because I'm really bad at documenting, so I didn't take any pictures. I can't remember even if my wife was there, because she took pictures. And there were people taking pictures, but I didn't know who they were. So there was some documentation out there. So it only became a memory for me as well. I wanted to have a tape to document that. But again, there's nothing there. But Mary Meadows here, who's a writer, amazing writer, art historian. She studied with the late, great art historian Schiffer Goldman, who wrote about Chicano art, as does Mary. She wrote for years here in the city, and just had a book published on the murals of Colorado.
And his mural is on the cover.
Yeah, she spoiled me and put my mural on the cover, so thank you for that again.
It's at the Denver Public Library.
Yeah, the piece is
It's a beautiful piece.
yeah, so thank you for that, Mary. Appreciate that. So we could just start the erasure.
Okay.
And you're welcome to take pictures, because otherwise just keep it in your mind, keep it in your memory, because that's all we're going to have of this. People ask me, why don't you put it on Typex or put it on Canvas? That's not the point. That's not the point.
I have a question.
Yeah.
As an artist, how do you feel when you see your creation?
How do I feel? Well, I too have memory. I actually do a lot of sketches, and then I just recycle them. Actually, I'm not afraid for it to disappear. It's like not everything an artist does I think is special, but to me it's the moments like this that become special, that you get to witness and experience something. even vanishing, disappearing, because again, look out in our community, our city's changing so fast, and we're losing old buildings, we're losing old murals, we're losing so much of what the character of the city, and it's being transformed. And so, as far as a piece being gone, because I know I can do more, I can do another.
Pero no, I have to speak la despedida de la vida salvaje, the saying goodbye to the natural world. Because for me, I'm a little west of the city. I grew up west of the city, and there used to be open spaces and animals and horses. I grew up with horses. And now with the encroachment, like you say, there's buildings are raised, but so many buildings, so much stuff everywhere that all the space that we had for our aves, for our venado, for our, there used to be an antelope. You could just, and so for me, I have to speak now when they're erasing the beautiful natural world that this world is for me. I'm a native Coloradoan, because it's disappearing, and we're in drought. We see that coming on. And I guess talking about this in terms of really erasing things, it's like, can we not erase the hearts? I don't want to erase the hearts, or leave those for very last, because at the very end we at least have our hearts,
Leave those
and
for
we can
last.
remember.
Keep going.
Remember.
It's going, gone.
That's my 2 cents.
Well, thank you, Nadi. Carolyn, Carrie, Nadi. Thank you, Nadi. And as you guys just keep rolling, erasing, I don't know if Izzy, if you would mind saying something, please.
I'm also a Denver native. In 1993, I was pretty much fed up with college. I was attending Metro State, and I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. I thought, okay, I'll go look for a job and see if I can't build something on that. And I'm sitting in the office of my guidance counselor, and she goes, okay, you need 4 classes. 2 classes we'll put towards your major, 1 class we'll do for a challenge, and then 1 we'll do for fun. And I thought, okay, so we picked the 3 classes, and we got to the one for fun, and she goes, how about drawing? And I go, yeah, let's give it a try. I used to draw a little in high school and stuff like that. My first class was with Carlos. And at the time, he's going to CU Boulder for his graduate degree. Here's a kid who was on the cusp of dropping out of college, and now he's seeing somebody from his own neighborhood, both Westwood kiddos, both Lincoln graduates, both attended Metro State. And I'm sitting there looking at a mirror. and I thought, look at how much success he's having. Look at how people gravitate towards him and look to him for issues with art and with life and with other things. Carlos for me, and I hope I don't put too much on you, but Carlos for me is a landmark. I believe there are certain landmarks in art. For instance, Van Gogh is a landmark. We all can recognize him. We all can get behind his images and stuff. For me, Carlos is that landmark. He's that, for anybody who goes hiking, I think they're called carols. They're sets of rocks that they set up and say, there's no real path, but if you go in between these, it kind of keeps you on the path. And for me, Carlos is just that. So, as one of his former students, I would simply like to say thank you, Carlos, for everything. Thank you for saving my life. Anyway, congratulations, and let's get into more trouble.
I didn't ask. Thank you for the kind words, but yeah, I was thinking about the disappearance of culture.
All right, let's talk about that for just a sec. I had always kind of fought for culture. I was born and raised a Denver native. My mom and my dad are both from Mexico. And I didn't know what that meant for me inside of a country that was, the status quo didn't exactly feel comfortable about having big old dark-haired, dark-eyed person in the forefront, but here I am. And I am seeing a trend among young people that they would much rather be involved in a consumer culture than they would in their own native or the culture that defines them. So it is kind of sad, but hopefully with the art that Carlos does, the kind of art that I do, my daughter does, and other people that we surround ourselves with, hopefully we can maintain some of that culture so that at least there's a record. Even though people may not get behind it, they may not say, yes, I'm Chicano, I'm Chicana, that's how I identify, this is my culture, this is who I am. I teach high school, I've been teaching high school for the last 15 years, and again, kids are not so much interested in that cultural piece anymore, and we can't let that completely disappear. So if you're an artist, and you're from a particular culture, hold on to it with talons and, make sure that the memory survives. All right? Thank you, Carlos. And thank you, everybody, for coming.
Dr. Rivera, as Izzy said, when he was a student of mine in Metro State, I was going to CU Boulder, and I was lucky enough to meet so many great people. Nadi was a student, and we were in school together in grad school. She was a student of mine at Metro. Then she went to grad school, and we were in school together. And I was fortunate to meet years ago in North Denver, Dr. George Rivera. I met him through artwork. He was putting together for the Guadalupe Church. He was putting together a fundraiser for Guadalupe Church. And he got all these artists to donate artwork so they could raise funds for the church. And so I met him a little prior to that. And then when I go to school in Boulder, he really helped me to have success there. For me to hold on, to hang in, because grad school was so much of a challenge, so challenging, sometimes very difficult. But Dr. Rivera, George just kept me there, and so I always am grateful for that, George. He's been teaching up in Boulder in sociology and the art department for, I want to say 47 years. Dr. Rivera, 47 years. True mentor, and someone I've always honored and respected. So with that, thank you, Dr. Rivera.
First of all, let me just begin by saying that generations will not cease to be born. And we are the only witnesses they have of our time. And art is a documentation of our time and who we are culturally as Mexicanos and what we believe in, what we think about. So when I look at Carlos's, the breadth of his work, I'm amazed by the production that he has. But even though I look at the work and internalize it within my cultural experience as a Mexicano, you should know that Carlos's work is American art. It fits into the bigger picture of American art. We are part of American art as Chicanos. Sometimes we lose sight of that we're only for our cultural group. But we're also to educate others about who we are. They don't understand who we are culturally, and what we believe in, and what we think about, and what drives us, and what moves us. So when I look at art by Carlos, I'm overwhelmed by the cultural interpretations that he has made in his work. And our time will pass. Your time will pass, and my time will pass. And others will be left behind, new generations. And they need this documentation to remember who we were, who we are, and how we struggle in this society to become all that we're capable of becoming. Just like Carlos did. Carlos is, I write about art. I'm an art critic and I write about art. I just published a book in Palestine. The Palestinian University published a book for me. And in that book, Carlos's work is in that book. That book will be distributed throughout the Middle East and Europe. Some distribution here, but since our country sides with Israel, it's not a popular book, right? And so, but it is popular throughout Europe that really sides with the Palestinians in the Middle East. And this is in the intellectual circles, art departments, intellectual circles of their universities. His work is there for it to be recognized on an international level. He belongs to us, but we share him internationally. Because he's one of us. He's one of us that makes us proud of who we are. That makes us look at ourselves and not be ashamed of who we are. And how we believe and how we think and what's important to us. So I see Carlos, when I look at here in Colorado, right? And there are many very good artists that we have. You got artists here in Colorado, and I'll bring them. But in that whole time that I look at art and analyze art, and have analyzed art as a critic, as an academic looking at art and trying to make sense of what's going on, Carlos is the foremost producer of art that really has kept it going all this time and critically relates to who we are. Other artists have other kinds of images. But if you look around here, you cannot help but see yourself in it if you're Mexicano. And if you're not Mexicano, you begin to get a glimpse of what our soul is like. Who we are inside spiritually. And so, of all the people that I've seen in Colorado, and I'll say it as an art critic who writes about art, Carlos is at the top of that scale. He's at the top. And I know all these artists. Like I said, I've written about it. I know all the artists that we have in Colorado. And across the country. But Carlos is really, he belongs to our family. He's part of our family. But we share him with others so that others can understand what this family in Colorado was about. And as an artist, because we're not located in an art center, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, they're the art centers. So sometimes the recognition that we deserve like artists, like Carlos, doesn't come to the forefront until later, when history reflects upon who we were and what we were doing here in Colorado. And Carlos helps us with memory, with time, with place, with identity. All those things are embedded in his art. And those are statements that are particular to us as Chicanos, but are universal to human beings. Those four things. And Carlos talks about it from our point of view. And as an artist, he is one of our own, one that I'm certainly proud that I came across and got to know. And as an academic, I do my best to try to make sure that others know about what I think about art and who I think some of our best artists are. And Carlos is right from if not the top. And I stumbled across him because I was going to this fundraiser for Our Lady of Love Church. And he was one of the first ones to volunteer to do his work so that we could raise money for the church, clinic, and scholarships the church was giving out. And not that many artists are as giving as Carlos is. The community has benefited from his work because he has given much to the community. Not just a mural here and a mural there. I'm talking about the essence of our community, to try to highlight and help others, right, recognize who we are. So, here we have Carlos. He's in front of us. He's alive and well. But let's treasure what we have, because sometimes we forget what we have right in front of us. And we don't treasure in the moment what we have. We have a great artist among us in our midst. We have someone who is articulating what we're about in the essence of our spirit, our soul, that they got. Let's treasure that while he's still alive, because this guy right here is still producing for God. And he won't stop producing because he's got ideas that go on forever. Right? And so it is with a sense of pride, a sense of recognizing the importance of this historical moment when all his work is shown in one place. That I say thank you, Carlos, for being in our lives and helping us recognize.
And lastly, I'd like to bring up Dr. Ramon Castillo. There's a painting he purchased some time ago. I don't know how it had it out earlier. Yeah,
They brought it up.
yeah, they brought it out, and then it's called.
It's on its way, Carlos.
It's on its way. It's a walking.
Right there.
It's like a. There it is. It's his hand, kind of like being or something. Yeah, this is like painted in Dr. Kumacha. Dr. Ramon Castillo purchased this piece some time ago, and then he informed me that he wrote a poem about it, but he had a poem that relates to it. But I'm honored that you invited me about that, so thank you for that, Ramon. But with that sort of introduction, I'll let you have
I
the
want to
floor.
thank Carlos for inviting me. I feel quite honored. I was actually in Lafayette doing the poetry reading at the library, and we had talked about it. And he asked me if I had a poem about La Pachucaba, and I said I do. As a matter of fact, I wrote a poem. And so I wrote it because my dad's brother, Raúl del Castillo, I remember him being in Pachuco, and I remember that, the cross with the cities like that. That picture's in my mind, and I always wondered about that. And so when Carlos put that up for sale, I bought it on a payment plan. And now I own it. They don't know, but I'm going to send them a bill for it. I'm just kidding. I'll give the money back here. But I'm a poet, and I think that the way that what you can do, what's happened to our people throughout history is they destroy people and they destroy cultures. But you can't destroy an ideology that's of the people and for the people and by the people. No matter how much they buried it, we've been able to unbury the treasure that we've had. We've traveled to Mexico like I have. You've seen the unburied treasures that were kind of just erased. Well, they've made us invisible. We are the invisible minority. If you look at race relations in American society, it's black and white. We become invisible for a lot of different political reasons. But we're only as invisible as we allow them to make us that way. And my belief is that the artists, the painters, the poets, the dancers, the creators of that kind of work save it. So we might erase this, but it's not going to be erased forever. If you look at Pachuco, you look at Mexican history, a guy by the name of Karl Marx would call the group that I'm going to mention the lumpen proletariat. That simply means the dregs of society, the poorest people. A guy by the name of Samuel Ramos, he was a Mexican philosopher, called him El Pelado. They were at the dregs of society. They wrote about him, just the same way that Marx wrote about a class system. So El Pelado was really the cousin to El Pachuco, because they were trying to save their Nahua influence that had happened in the 15th century when they destroyed Mesoamerica. So they had this personality type, and El Pelado was really a hero, although throughout history he's characterized as a deviant. The Pachucos were characterized by deviance by the mainstream society when they were really heroes. They were heroes and heroines because they were preserving who we were at the expense of themselves. And so the question is, what do? We preserve it. So that linkage right now, for those of you, is the chorro. Pelado, Pachuco, chorro. Now the millennials are going to have to come up with their own name. But we're also going to start writing about that because that's how we preserve it. We preserve it through this kind of art, through dance, through poetry, and through writing. And so that's what I do as a journalist and as a poet, is we preserve that and we save it, but we pass it on because we also have the oral tradition. They're not going to destroy us. We are at some point going to be the masters of our own destiny. That's in the books. That's going to happen. We just happen to be crossing this path in time and space, and we're going to another existence soon. That's our generation, my generation. But we're going to leave the gifts. So it's our responsibility to teach the children what we're about. So they can carry that message back and we can preserve who we are. We can erase it here symbolically, but they're not going to erase who we were. That's not going to happen. We've overcome that. We're going to continue to do that. But I wrote this after watching the movie Zoot Suit. Almost his work. So in the novel language, they say in Lakesh. And Lakesh means, what I'm going to be saying, Lakesh means, tú eres mi otro yo. And tú eres mi otro yo means that you are my other me. And when we do an embrace, we're forming a circle. And we're saying to each other, tú eres mi otro yo, you're my other me. Because we are connected, all of us. Doesn't matter what color you are, what culture, we're all connected because we're human. So this poem kind of captures that, I hope. I am your other you. You are my other me. Tú eres mi otro yo in Lakesh. I am the one hiding inside your soul, the one who paid an outrageous toll, whose signature was left out of the historical scroll, transformed into the master's narrative, a truth serum we are told, that clouded your mind, leaving you out in the cold. I am the fine-tuned sculpture, hidden in shadows of obscurity, carrying linguistic phonetics, making me el vato firme, el vato suave, el vato vago, el vato rascuache, rescuing me from complete acculturation and fanatical symbolic annihilation. I am your dreams and fantasies, el mitotero, taking you to Never Never Land, the one who taught you how to shake hands with class, that is, como un vato loco. I visit you in your dreams, in the collective unconscious where you are drowning. I help you realize your true self. I am the ghost who haunts you. I am a hidden hero, an existential force refusing to digest self-hatred, cannibalized by the forces of homogenization. I am the resistor, the protagonist of a play called life. I strutted my stuff to show you that I would not disappear into a maze of solitude and loneliness. I was the one holding you up when you flinched, wondering if you were going to survive. And I forced you to stand up against the daunting pressures with colossal heroism to shout, que viva la raza! I am your other you. Tú eres mi otro yo. You are my other me. In Lakesh. So everybody in three say, in Lakesh. Lakesh. Say it again on three. 1, 2, 3. In Lakesh. So, that's the end of that poem. I too had the privilege of having fantastic mentors. Dr. George Vidal, Dr. Eileen Ceros, Carlos in his work. I've been lucky in my life. I was mentored by a curandera for 13 years. I'm a healer. I do a lot of different kinds of work. But I also was good friends with Lalo Delgado. He was one of my teachers. And the first time he said, Ramon, what do you do with your work? I said, it's at home. He goes, do you read it? And I said, I haven't. He goes, why not? That's what Tlamatinimes do. The Tlamatinimes in the Nahua culture were the poets that wrote about existence, wrote about ceremony. And he said, if I get you a gig, will you read? And I said, I'd never done it before. And I said, I would. That was over 40 years ago. So he called me, so I got you a gig. So I got ready. Well, I was nervous. So I called Lalo one night. I said, Lalo, what do you do if nobody shows up? And he said, Ramon, as long as there's one person there, you read with your whole heart and soul. That's all that matters. I never forgot that lesson. So I wrote a poem working in the field of mental health for 17 years. I've been in the hearts of the Vato Loco. I'm an ex-Vato Loco from the streets of Wichita, Kansas. Yes, there are Chicanos there. We worked the railroads all the way in there. My grandpa was from Ciudad de Mexico. My mom's side, they were from La Piedad, Michoacan. So we're Mexicanos, third generation. But I was fascinated with that and thinking about this thing called the Vato Loco and tying it in with El Pachuco, who didn't always make the best of decisions, but they were heroes. Vato Loco, con su cabeza llena de mota, lighting the paths dark with fear. Can you hear? As you sit idly in the classrooms where the silence of indoctrination suddenly grabs you and makes a believer of false notions of inferiority, and then passes judgment about your ancestors' feathers. Orale, Vato Loco. Your path, they tell you that it is predetermined, that it is filled with solemn images where you stand your conscience laying bare in the front streets de sus propios barrios, filled with homeboys and pop-tarts and nightmares and gruesome realities caused by the ingestion of filthy needles shot into arms full of tattoos. Orale, Vato Loco. Take off that handkerchief, ese. Take off that handkerchief and wipe away the sangre, the blood of 1,000 years of miseria, cuando sus carnales estaban cantando sweet, sweet melodies into the ears of the beautiful rugas about dreams that had never come true. Orale, Vato Loco. Escape. Escape from the fires of the infierno that fry you like a crispy critter so that you can be the avena for the breakfast of the champions of society who eventually take everything that you are worth and treat it as a commodity for sale on the common market. Orale, Vato Loco, wake up! Anachronism is not your dessert. Pan dulce y chocolate. Doesn't that sound better? Wake up, Vato Loco, wake up! Thank you.
Thank you, Alma. Got it on circle. And Mary, thank you so much for showing up. And I don't know if you wanted to say anything, but again, I mentioned the first time I put this exhibit together, Mary was there. Again, it was videotape. There's no record. A few people took pictures, but Mary was a witness and just.
Well, I just,
So important to me that you're here, Mary.
I'm sorry, I have the book about the murals, and on the cover is Carlos's mural at the Denver Public Library, and it's an absolutely beautiful mural. So, but I'm going to talk to the head of the, and I'll probably bring some down here, and so it's a really lovely book, even though I wrote it. But anyway, I think this is a wonderful exhibition, and I'm glad we're all here to be able to see it. I think that's about it.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you so much. And with that, the last part, Nadia, you request that.
I did.
There you go.
Can I say something?
Oh,
I have to say this, and I thank you. What you see with Carlos, and thank you for saying to leave the hearts. This is his heart. So thank you.
Yes, it is. I mean, he was my teacher first, so I